Hey everyone, join me today as I do some winter sowing. I just want to show you what I have all set for winter sowing. You're going to need a container, a plastic container. I have some milk jugs here. I also have some 2-liter pot bottles, and you're going to need a pair of scissors or a box cutter or something to cut your plastic bottle with. You're going to need some labels, and I simply just cut up a red plastic solo cup, and I made my first label, the forget-me-nots. And you're going to want some type of a marker that is, I think they call it, what is it, UV resistant. This is a garden marker that I got off of Amazon, and I can link it below. You're going to need a marker that doesn't fade. And from what I hear, the regular Sharpie markers can fade. So you want to get a good marker, something that's good for outdoor use. I'll make sure to link that below, like I said. You're going to need some duct tape. And last but not least, you're going to need some seeds. Now, I'm just starting with a small group of seeds here. I discussed these seeds on my last video when I was just kind of talking about the fact that I wanted to do some winter sowing. So I will talk about it again briefly when we, actually winter sow them into the containers. So I think I have everything I need to get started. What is winter sowing? If you don't know what winter sowing is, it's basically sowing seeds outside, and you're going to sow them or plant them in a plastic container, such as a milk jug like this, and you're going to basically create a little greenhouse for yourself with this plastic container. You're going to be taking the cap off and leaving the cap off. And once you get your containers planted up, you're going to be putting them outside. They're going to be taped up, and I'll show you how we do that. And you're going to be placing them outside, and they are going to be just sitting outside in nature in all of the elements until that seed is ready, when the conditions are right, until that seed germinates. And nature will dictate when that happens, along with the seed and what the seed needs. So that's basically the gist of winter sowing. It's been around for quite some time. I really am just very interested in learning and experiencing the winter sowing method. And when the seed starts to germinate, you're basically having a little plant growing inside of this little greenhouse. And once your danger of frost has passed in your area, you can start to open up your containers, and you're basically going to let them experience the warm weather and the sun and the sunshine. And you're going to be planting them out in your garden, out in your landscape, in your gardens, or wherever you so desire. Another benefit is that your seeds have been out in your plants have been out in the cold weather and all the elements for, a couple months or whatever the time frame is. And so you don't have to worry about hardening off, which is typically where you have to take your plants out and give them a little time outside, then bring them back in, then take them out again before you actually plant them out into your garden, just to kind of get them acclimated to the outdoor climate versus the indoor climate if you were seed starting indoors. Now, I have never started seeds indoors. I don't have any of the equipment currently, so that was another reason why winter sowing was so appealing to me, because there's not much that you needed to buy. You just could get your plastic jugs anywhere, and you just needed a few items and some seeds, and you could get started. So I have my winter sowing jug. I did clean these out beforehand, so make sure you clean them out. I just used hot water and a little bit of dishwashing soap and shook it up and rinsed it several times just to clean them out. So the first thing I'm going to do is make drainage holes. So I'm going to make some drainage holes in the bottom, and then I'll show you how I cut. I'm going to be cutting all the way around, leaving this hinge here, leaving a little bit like an inch or so here so I can open and close it. So I'll show you how I do that. So I just am using a pair of scissors. So what I'm doing is just kind of cutting a little hole, and then I'm just sticking my scissors in it. I want to make sure you can see what I'm doing here. Just going to stick my scissors in the hole and give it a twist, just like that. So again, I'm just kind of cutting a little hole and then just taking the scissors like this. And just giving it a little twist. Do it again and just give it a little twist. So I have 4 holes in the bottom there. The next thing you want to do is just make a little cut here right next to the handle, and I'm just going to cut all the way around until you get back to this other side, leaving this space uncut so you can pull it open and close like a little hinge. So I just made another little hole, and I'm going to just carefully cut all the way around. Just till I get back here, and you can see how this opens and closes now. So you are also going to need potting mix, and I just have some right here. I'm trying to keep things as clean as possible because I'm working in my kitchen today. I was going to be working in my garage, but I don't know. I just didn't feel like sitting in the garage, so I set everything up in my kitchen. So I'm going to try to keep things as neat as possible. But you do need potting mix, not seed starting mix. I did learn that. And I also read that you should moisten your potting mix. So why am I winter sowing? You know, I think I'm just trying to learn more about gardening, and I was really interested in it. I'm just putting about 3 or 4 inches of this potting mix in my container. I was really interested in it, and I realized that it's really a good way to start your own plants. It's inexpensive. I think that was the first thing that caught my attention. You're not buying tons of plants. You're buying the seeds, but there's, you know, really inexpensive way to buy seeds. You know, you can go to the Dollar Tree. You know, seeds generally are, you know, less expensive than plants. And that caught my attention first thing. And also the fact that it didn't require much work at all. You know, it's very manageable. You don't really need to do much to it. I mean, once you get this initial stage, once you get your seeds planted in here, you're going to set them outside in the snow, and nature will take care of everything for you. Now, there is a little caveat to that. You do have to pay attention to them. You can't completely ignore them because sometimes if you live in a dry climate, for instance, you might need to water your containers. But for the most part, especially where I'm in zone 6B in Western New York. We get a lot of snow and we get a lot of rain in the springtime as well. So I know that my containers most likely will be taken care of without much assistance on my part. Okay, so I have my Bells of Ireland. That is one of the first seeds that I'm going to sow. And in my last video, I just talked about how I came to choose the seeds that am going to be planting for round 1 of my winter sowing. So I chose seeds that were cool annuals or hardy annuals or perennials. And the reason I did that is because it's the middle of January. I have snow on the ground. The ground is frozen. So I want to be sure that I choose something that will tolerate those conditions as we move forward. So I know that perennials and also hardy annuals can tolerate frost. So that's why I chose the Bells of Ireland. Now, you can also winter sow tender annuals, you know, things that you know, prefer warmer temperatures, but you're not going to be starting those types of seeds now. It's really important to familiarize yourself with your season where you live, what your temperatures are like. You need to be familiar with your frost dates, your first frost date, your last frost date, and your seeds and what that seed needs. So, for example, I know that the Bells of Ireland, I know this is a cold or a cool annual, and I know it benefits from a chill period. Now, this one says light aids germination. So we're going to press lightly into the soil surface and keep moist. If sowing during warm weather, chill seeds in the refrigerator for 1 to 2 weeks before sowing. So I don't have to worry about that, but this is going to be something that I just kind of press lightly onto the soil. I'm not going to be covering it with soil. So it's important that you're really paying attention to the instructions on your seed packet. You can also Google things, and don't worry if you make a mistake. I don't want that to deter you from trying, because listen, this is my very first time trying winter sowing, and all I did was educate myself about the method, and that's all it is a method. So you're going to learn the method, and then you kind of can trial and error and test things out in your climate, in your zone, with what you want to plant. And sometimes you will succeed and sometimes you will fail, but you will learn a lot in the process. So I am just going to pre-moisten this now before I put my seeds down on the soil. I'm just going to kind of let this soil moisten up here. And we'll see how good the drainage holes work. Okay, I did just pre-moisten my soil, and basically you want to moisten your potting mix or your potting soil to the point where they said where it's kind of like a little mud pie or Play-Doh. So I think I have it at the right consistency here. See how it forms a little ball? And I'm just getting it all ready, and we're going to put our seeds on top. This is what the Bells of Ireland look like. So it says here to put a group of 3 seeds every 12 inches. Well, obviously we don't have like a big, surface area that we're sowing. So I'm not going to worry too much about those directions. I'm not going to overly crowd it though, because I don't want to, the roots to start competing with themselves. But I'm just going to put groups of 3, probably in each corner, maybe in the middle, and we'll see how we do. 1, 2, oh, there was 4 there. No biggie. And I'm just going to press those down as we go. So the Bells of Ireland, they require, oops, I want to make sure I put it down on a flat area. They require light to germinate. So that's why you're just putting them on the soil, not in the soil, not in the potting mix. Oops. I'll make sure those are on top. Put some in the middle. Okay, maybe we'll do a few more. A few more over here. Okay, that seems about what I'm comfortable with. I don't want to overplant it because I don't want them to start competing and not have, what they need to grow properly. So, once you kind of get everything in there, you can't even tell where they are really, but they're on the surface, and I pressed them lightly in. I'm going to put the rest of the seeds back in here for now. Just went and got my tag. I'm going to put my tag inside, and I'm going to close it up and duct tape it closed. And now I'm just going to get my duct tape, and basically you are just as neatly as you can, just sealing up your container. Just take that closed there. And I think that should be good. Okay, then you want to label on the outside as well. Bells of Ireland. And I'm going to write the date. Today is, what's today's date? Today's Friday. Couldn't remember the date. Okay, it's Friday. It's 1/24/25. We did it. Let's do a couple more together. Okay, we're going to do the Shasta daisy next. Let's make our drainage holes. Okay, so I just want you to notice that I just sort of took a shortcut with the way I was dampening my soil. I was putting my potting mix in here and then I'm showering it with water and just kind of, dampening it in its container here versus in a separate container. I guess I'll find out if that's good or not. I don't know if I should have done it in a separate container and then moved it over so I could really get a sense. But honestly, I pressed out any water, pressed it down towards the bottom, and it came out the drainage hole. So I think we're at the right consistency, which is kind of, they said, like a mud pie consistency or a Play-Doh consistency. So I think I'm good. So I am going to, now I'm going to sow our Shasta daisies. And the reason why you're dampening the soil is so your seedling has the best chance to root and grow. You don't want to put it in extremely dry soil because it would have a harder time rooting and growing. So that's the reason why you want to dampen your potting mix. So here's our Shasta daisy. It's from American Seed Company. I'm going to need my readers here, and let's look and see. Okay, so depth to sow. So this is going to be sown 1/4 inch into the ground. Okay, that's what that says. Seed spacing 12 inches. We're not too concerned about that because we're in this little container. And anything else I need to know? I don't think so. Okay, so 1/4 inch deep. I'm kind of just going to guesstimate what that would be in here. And we will sow these seeds. Okay, so this one goes about 1/4 inch deep. And I also wanted to mention that the amount of soil you're going to be putting in here is 3 to 4 inches. So we're about 3 or 4, right in between, maybe 3.5. And that's generally the measurement from the bottom of a milk container up to the hinge there. Just an FYI there. And I'm telling you all of this not because I'm this major expert, but because it's helping me learn as well. I've been just, reading things, doing research online, Googling things. I have been watching YouTube videos and listen, I'm just sharing my experience with you. I want to motivate you to learn something new like this. It's really fun. And I'd like you to share with me, are you winter sowing, and what has your experience been so far? So, okay, anyway, so I just made a little holes in the soil here. I am going to get our seeds out, the Shasta daisy seeds. Let's see what these guys look like. It's kind of interesting how every seed looks so different. I remember like the zinnias when I first planted those last summer. Those are really big seeds. Now these are, I think, even a little bit more delicate than the bells of Ireland. The bells of Ireland was a little sturdier. It was almost like it reminded me of like grape nut cereal or something. So, okay, these are a little bit smaller. Probably going to put a few in each hole here. Let me bring you down a little bit closer. So I make these holes and then I can't see them. So I'm going to make a hole and then we'll cover it up right away. And I'm just guesstimating about 1/4 of an inch deep. No need to get all, you know, obsessive over precise measurements, because that's no fun, you know. That's no fun. When you have to be so precise, it's, you know, you do have to follow the guidelines, but don't knock yourself out unless it makes you happy. It would make me a little more stressed to have to be so precise. And I think that is part of the beauty of gardening is like, you know, there's lots of different ways to approach the same thing. You know, you could be exactly precise and it could work out great. You could be not as precise and it could also work out great. I think that's why God made gardening, because he knew we were all so different. And he knew there was a lot of different ways to achieve the same result, right? Just like with seed starting, there's a lot of different ways to start seeds, indoors, outdoors, a lot of different methods. And these, the pictures of the Shasta daisies online looked so beautiful. And the fact that they're a perennial, that's super exciting. I'd love to see something like that come up every year in my garden. Okay, I think that's enough for this container. Okay, let's get this. I'm a little clumsy with the tape. We'll get it though. Oops, might have to go around again there. Oh no, I forgot to put my label in it. I've seen people do that on their videos and I'm like, oh, why did they forget to put their label in it? Totally get it. All right, let me get my label. Can I get it in there? Let me open it. Oh, look it. I dropped it in there. You don't want to just drop it in because then it lays on top of the soil. You do want it on the side. Good golly. Open it up. Let's put our label in. There we go. And we'll tape it back up. Shasta daisy, Alaska, 1/24/25, and this is from American Seed. Yay, we did another one. The next one I'm going to sow here, it's called the blue grama or the blue grama grass. Look how beautiful that is. And I knew that this was a good choice because it says perennial, right on the packet. And it also says to sow outside 2 to 4 weeks before your average last frost. It also can be sown in late summer or early fall so the plant gets established before winter and gets an early start in spring. So that told me that this is besides the fact that it says perennial, but that it can tolerate cold weather. I have cut my drainage holes in the bottom. I cut around the milk jug, and I filled my container with about 3 to 4 inches, give or take, of potting mix, and I moistened it. I dampened it with some water, and I am going to take a look at these seeds now. Let's take a look at these grass seeds. These feel very light. And I think it said, what did it say on the pack here? Seed spacing, a pinch of 10 or 20 seeds every 18 inches. So I'm definitely going to give a good pinch into each hole here. Another reason why I felt it was good to winter sow is because I think winter sowing can be good for smaller garden spaces because you're just, filling up a little container, of, just with what you want basically. And you can, sow several different things to plant in your garden. And I just think it's conducive for a smaller garden, this winter sowing method. So I just feel like this year I'm going to just winter sow all kinds of things and then just plant them out in my garden and, see how it does. I'd really love to make my garden more interesting this year, with different textures and colors. And I think this winter sowing is going to help me achieve that. I just felt like this container needed a little bit more soil on top, so I just added a little sprinkling on top here. Next, I have forget-me-nots. We're going to sow these 1/4 of an inch deep. I've prepared my container and moistened my soil. Okay, let's see what these seeds look like. Let me dry my hand off a little bit. Ooh, I like these. I like the ones that are easy to pick up and a little sturdier. Okay, and let's see, seed spacing 8 to 10 inches. Okay, we'll get started on these forget-me-nots. Last one, this is lavender. It says container variety lavender. I'm pretty sure this is good for winter sowing. It does require, it says a garden hint on the back, is that it needs cold stratification. Wow, lavender is super tiny. Super, super tiny. Only 1/8 of an inch sow depth as well. So okay, here I have all my containers. I did 7 today, and I added on some lavender as well that I got from American Seed. And I think I'm ready to bring these outside. Okay, I've got my milk jugs here, and I'm just walking over. I think I've read that it's good to put your milk jugs on the north side of your house, and I think that's because when temperatures do warm up and you do get a lot of sun, that's to protect them maybe from germinating prematurely. But for now, because I want to just be able to remember that they're there, I think I'm going to be placing my milk jugs just right in my elevated garden bed here. Right in the snow. Let me go get the other ones. Okay, this is where they are going to live for right now, and this is it. This is round one of winter sowing. Thanks for joining me on my winter sowing journey, and I encourage anybody out there who has not winter sowed before to give it a try. Let's try it together, and I'll be doing several rounds of winter sowing. I think it's nice to break it up into different sewing sessions. That way you're not completely exhausted from, one session. And I think if you break it up into different rounds, I think it's fun and enjoyable that way. And I will be sure to share with you, what else I'll be sewing before the start of this 2025 garden season. So if you have questions or comments, leave them below, and I'll do my best to answer any questions based on what I've learned. But also, if anyone else is winter sowing and can chime in and offer help or advice, we're all learning here. I will see everyone in my next video. Have a great day.